Hello, everyone. This is the 207th episode of Soccer Nostalgia Talk Podcast. As always, this is Sean from Los Angeles and the Soccer Nostalgia blog. For this episode, I interview distinguished professor Dr. Laurent Bellaiche of University of Arkansas as we discuss Paris Saint-Germain's early beginnings in the 1970 until its first league title in 1986. Professor Ballaiche has written a number of football related articles on the University of Arkansas site, The Beautiful Game Dispatches from the Hill, that I urge everyone to check out. Welcome, Laurent.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a true pleasure.
So, can you introduce yourself and your trajectory into football?
Yes, so as you say, I'm a professor of physics at the University of Arkansas. I'm also a professor in the Department of Material and Science in Tel Aviv, in Israel. And in terms of football, I got what is known in France as the fever in 1976, when Saint-Étienne, what we call Les Verts, the Green, went very far in the European competition to the final. And I was a young kid at that time, and everyone in my generation got a virus to love soccer at that time. And in 1976, I started to play also for a team in Paris area.
In contrast to many historical clubs, Paris Saint-Germain is actually a relatively young club, founded in 1970 after a merger. What can you say about the club's early years and its fast promotion to the elite in 1971?
So that is a very interesting story. In fact, a lot of people wanted a team in Paris because the old teams have died or were not doing so well, like Stade Français or Racing or other teams like that, Olympique de Paris. So what happens is first, some artists, some singers, or some journalists, they decided to ask people to give money to fund a new team. And among the people, there were singers like Enrico Macias or Mireille Mathieu or Annie Cordy, and journalists like Pierre Belmar. And they got something around over 800,000 francs at that time for 17,000 people. So they got a little bit of money. But what also happened at the same time is there was a brand new team called Paris FC Football Club, and they merged with a very tiny club called Saint-Germain, which is from the city of Saint-Germain-en-Laye. So the real name is Stade Saint-Germain. And this very small team just got promoted to the second division. So Paris FC and Stade Saint-Germain merge in, as you say, 1970, and they form now the Paris Saint-Germain FC there, and they started to play for the 70-71 season in second division, and they were promoted at the end to the first division for the 71-72 season. But during this first season, the captain was Jean Djokaeff, who was the captain of the national French team. So he played in the second division, and he's the dad of a very famous Yuri Djokaeff, who was a world champion with France in 1998. And for historical purposes, it is good to know that the first goal ever scored by this team, Paris Saint-Germain FC, was in August 1970 by a free kick by someone named Bernard Guignedou there. So they were promoted to the first division. They played in 71-72. They didn't do so well. They finished 16, if I remember, but they were still not relegated. But what happened at the end of that season is Paris FC didn't want anymore to stay in the merger. So there was a split between Paris FC and Paris Saint-Germain. Paris FC stayed in first division, and Paris Saint-Germain went to the third division. So they played in first division for the 72-73 season. They got promoted to the second division. They played in second division for the 73-74 season, and they got promoted to the first division again for the 74-75 season. Well, ironically, Paris FC got relegated at the end of the 74. So they never play together, these two teams, in the first division, except in 78-79, and for the first time ever now, since 78-79, this year, in the 2025-2026 season, the two teams are together in the first French division.
And these few years were very difficult years for the team with the demotions. The team went through a couple of coaches and presidents, but it all changed in 1973 as fashion designer Daniel Hector became the president and appointed a 1958 World Cup legend Just Fontaine as manager, who managed in tandem with Robert Vico for some time. Was this the reference point of the club's true establishment?
That's very interesting because there are three ways of thinking about that. Some people believe the first year, the foundation of Paris Saint-Germain is 1970, when Paris FC merged with Stade Saint-Germain. Some people believe it's 1972, when there was a split between Paris FC and Paris Saint-Germain. But some people, Daniel Escher in particular, believe it's 1973, when he became the president of this Paris Saint-Germain team. He was a wealthy businessman, but he went with other people like Borelli to take over this team, becomes a more professional, I will say. And he's also designed, as you say, the new jersey with the new colors. So before him, not a lot of people know that, but the color of Paris Saint-Germain was completely red. It's when Daniel Escher came and say, I'm a fashion designer, I'm going to design a new jersey. And it's the jersey that we know now with, this basically red vertical stripe, thin white vertical stripes as well, and blue jersey. It was a good beginning, and you have a big name, Justo Fontaine, the top scorer of the World Cup in 1958 with 13 goals. So there was more and more spotlight coming into this new team of Paris.
And as you mentioned, Paris Saint Germain earned promotion and returned to the first division for the 74-75 season. But they finished 15th. So, what can you say about the backbone of the team at this point?
Yes, it was very young, as you know, a very young team, but they have some good players at some very specific position. In particular, the goalkeeper was from Yugoslavia. His name is Ilija Pantelic. He was very, very good goalkeeper. I think he used to play for Yugoslavia. And before that, before he came to Paris, he was playing for Bastia and also was considered very highly there. In defense, there were central defender, which is Giacchinovi. Is somehow known in France. In the 70s, he was very well known. A very solid defender, was playing for the French national team. And there was one of the most beloved players of all time for Paris Saint-Germain. His name is Mustafa Dalem. The nickname is Mumous. He's born in Algeria. What is funny is that he's born in a city that used to be called Bougie, which means candle in France. And this, I think, suits him very well because whenever he played, it was sparks all around. He was a light for everybody to see.
Other names we have Louis
Yes,
Floch, Francois Impele, among others, in this first generation of Paris Saint Germain back in the first division.
absolutely. And Lulu, call him Lulu, Louis Flog. He was very fast. He was one of the best players from a special part of France, which is Brittany. And François Impelé was someone that deserves to be better known because for a very, very long time, until perhaps last year or 2 years ago, he was the top scorer of Paris Saint-Germain in the French Cup. He was from Congo. No, he's from Congo. Excellent player.
For the 1975-76 season, Paris Saint-Germain signed the Portuguese star Humberto Coelho, who would later manage the Portuguese national team. He joined the club along with the likes of Francis Piazecki and Tokoto. But the team once again struggled in the league and finished 14th. Was there a feeling that at least the team was starting to consolidate its place in the top division, if not impressing?
And that's true. So it was, I will say, a regular team, not so great, even if it is the team that I was supported. First, they only finished 4 points above Monaco, who was relegated, so it was very close to be relegated. Some good players, but not like these days. Not really any big superstar. Umberto Coelho was good, but it's not like, I don't know, Ibrahimovic or someone like that. And there were also some very good teams at that time. So in 76, it was Saint-Etienne, was one of the best teams in Europe. Nantes was playing very, very well. Bastia, it was his golden age. They went to final of one European competition 2 years later. Nancy has probably the best French player ever, Michel Platini. Reims has an incredible striker, Carlos Bianchi. And Marseille had very good players, like one of the French idol of all time, Marius Trésor. So good team, but not among the top 10, for sure.
This 1975-76 season also featured a young Thierry Morin. The defender would be the common link in the story that we're going to discuss of Paris Saint-Germain until his first title in 1986. What can you say about him and his career and the whole concept of Les Quatre Mousquetaires, the Four Musketeers?
It is a very good question. So if you ask, I will say 99% of current Paris Saint-Germain fans, they don't know the name, which is for me a true pity. Is the symbol of Paris Saint-Germain for me for a lot of different reasons. First, he's born in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, in the city where there is the training ground. And he played in Stade Saint-Germain because at that time Paris Saint-Germain did not exist. And when it started to exist in 1970, he went to join the team. So born in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, playing for the first time in this Paris Saint-Germain youth team with a red jersey because it was not yet the Easter jersey. And then progressively, he played better and better. He get older, and Just Fontaine called him. It was probably in 75, in December 1975. Just Fontaine called him and said, you're a young guy, 19 perhaps at that time. You are going to play. You are going to replace Jacques Novi, the French international. You are going to play close to Umberto Coelho. But that's not it. I'm going also to play two other young guys, Jean-Marc Pilorget and Lionel Jussier. The three of them are born in Paris areas. And in second half, there was another young guy who came. His name is François Brisson. And the four of them were basically coming from the first center, the training ground, training center of Paris Saint-Germain. So this was the nickname, Les Quatre Mousquetaires. But after that, he didn't play the rest of the season because very young. What he did, he went and did finish his high school degree there. And then he started to play more and more in the first team. And in fact, at one point, he played perhaps something like 32 games for Paris. And there was a condition in the French league that if you play a certain number of games, automatically you have to become professional. So at that time, it was Francis Borrelli, the president, said, I have to apply the chart. You become professional. And it was very funny because with the first amount of money that he got, he bought a very tiny car. And now he doesn't come anymore to the training ground by a small moped, but by a small car, which is quite funny in the sense that now if you look at the cars of the PSG players, it's a Ferrari, it's a Porsche, but the guy was coming from this tiny apartment to the training ground by moped, and with the first amount, he came with a small, tiny car. And then he went over all of the season, and he won what we're going to discuss probably later, the French Cup, first time ever for Paris, 1982, then 1983, the second French Cup, and 1986, the first championship. And then, to the despair of a lot of fans, he left in 1986 because the team was getting bigger and bigger, and he was a very well-liked player, but he was not a superstar. But after a couple of years, he went to another Parisian team called Red Star, an old team, and he stopped and he wanted to teach at that time. But Francis Borrelli called him and said, you are a guy from Saint-Germain, you have a guy that we have seen growing up in this Paris Saint-Germain team, please come back. And he came back for 30 years until his retirement very recently, a couple of years ago, to take care of different aspects of Paris Saint-Germain. So a well-known figure among the old supporters of Paris Saint-Germain. The oldies, like myself, not so well known among the young fans. They should know it.
For the 1976-77 season, Hechter decided to appoint a new manager, replacing Fontaine with the former Partizan Belgrade and Ajax great Velibor Vasovic. There is a slight improvement as the team finished ninth, but Vasovic would be on his way out. There's some improvement, but the team is still not what we think of when we think of Paris Saint Germain today. Was it like steady progress, more or less?
It was a steady progress. Vazovic, so as you say, he was coming from Ajax, so a very big name at that time. And he had a very great idea. He said, this Mumus, Mustafa Daleb, I'm going, to take him from his left winger position to number 10, the playmaker, and he was playing very well. I think he got, in fact, voted best foreign players of the league when he was playing in the playmaker. There was another guy who was Philippe Rodon, with an interesting story, but he was one of the few that managed to play professional and at the same time doing very nice studies. He got a degree in pharmacy at the university. But the team was okay, I would say. But if you look at the top five for the 76-77 season, they were much, much better than Paris. There was Nantes, there was Lens, Bastia, Nancy, and Saint-Etienne. So they did okay. They did as they can do. They could have done a little bit better, but not that much.
For the 1977-78 season, Herscher takes a gamble and appointed Jean-Michel Larquet as player manager. There is also more ambitious recruitment with the arrivals of the Argentine goleador Carlos Bianchi and defenders like Jean-Pierre Adams and the Argentine Ramon Heredia. But once again, the team fails to make any headway. Now, before we get to the scandal that we discuss, why do you think the team was not functioning?
I think we have different reasons. So Jean-Michel Larquet is a well-known figure in French football. He was the captain of Saint-Etienne of 1976, then, as you said, a coach. And later on, he became a TV host, very famous TV host. But if you read what the youngsters of the teams are saying, Justier, Morin, they are saying he was not very nice with the young people. He was very harsh with them. I have a personal story. I play against him in a French Cup. He was playing for a team called Variété, Club de France, which is when famous people retire, they play together. And we play against him. And on the field, he was not so nice either. So I can certify that Justin Morin, in fact, we're right, but he's not such a nice figure, a little bit arrogant and can be tough with young people. At the same time, there was Carlos Bianchi, was an incredible striker. In fact, he finished top striker. It was first time ever that someone from Paris Saint-Germain finished top striker of the league with 37 goals, which was quite amazing because the team, Paris Saint-Germain, finished only 11, so not a great team. So not so great player, not so great coach, a lot of young people in the team. So they got what they deserve. In my mind, 11 was okay. Still a mid-rank team.
And the only other takeaway is that Jean-Claude Lemoule would make his debut this season, I believe. Now, let's discuss the scandal that led to the departure of Daniel Hechter in January 1978.
It's a little bit difficult to know exactly what happened. So I try to read a little bit about that. We know that there is a scandal. I didn't know exactly what happened. So by reading it, I found out that, in fact, for each game, 60,000 tickets were sold. This is technically a problem because the capacity of the stadium is 50,000. So there are more than 10,000 more tickets that were sold. So this money, my understanding is that this additional money that came from cheating was put aside. And with this money, they gave additional money to the players, but without declaring to the equivalent of IRS. Then it was known, and then Daniel Hechter was banned to French football. It cannot be anymore take part of any French teams, which is normal. I mean, when you cheat, you have to be punished. But at the same time, this was someone who was very passionate, and this is someone that really helped putting Paris Saint-Germain on the map.
He would be replaced by Francis Borrelli as president of Paris Saint-Germain. And I think in retrospect, perhaps Francis Borrelli was seen as a lower profile figure, but he turned out to be the most emblematic president of the Paris Saint-Germain of the pre-Canal Plus era. What can you say about him and his status at this point?
So it is true. So when he came with Daniel Escher. Daniel Escher was much more famous than him. Daniel Escher cannot be president anymore. Francis Bollary stepped in. And to be honest, he is my most favorite president of Paris Saint-Germain of all time. A lot of different reasons. He was extremely charismatic. He loved his players. He was like the dad of the players. He gives them more money when they need it. He's the one that turned Thierry Morin a professional. When Paris Saint-Germain won the cup, he went and kissed the grass. And even his way of talking, always moving the hands, always telling anecdote. He belongs to what is done in France as the black feet, the pied noir. He's born in one of North African country, I believe it's Algeria, and speak with a certain accent, which is like a singing accent. Very, very charismatic, very, very popular there. He loves his players, and we have to thank him. He was the president for the first French Cups and for the first French title.
In Borelli's first full season as president for the 1978-79 seasons, there are more ambitious signings as Dominique Battenet and Dominique Baratelli joined the club. But the season is poor as the club finished 13th and Lache is relieved of his post as early as August to be replaced by Pierre Alonso, who in turn gives way to the returning Velibor Vasovic in November. Despite quality players, why do you think the squad failed again?
So the squad failed again for different reasons. The team that finished above them, first had the champion Strasbourg, second one was Nantes, Saint-Etienne again, Monaco fourth, much better. Real teams, they play together, they have very good players. So Paris Saint-Germain has some good players like Dominique Bartelli, fantastic goalie, Dominique Battenet play as a sweeper for Paris, a very great captain. But there were some position that was very weak. I will say right defender, right back or left back or midfield, not so great there. So much better team, some weak spots there. So in my mind, that's why Paris was not doing so well. But you say a name that is very important is Pierre Alonso. One has to know that he's the director of the first youth academy of Paris Saint-Germain. So he's the one who basically trained les quatre mousquetaires there. And what is funny is years later, his son, Jérôme Alonso, was a goalkeeper and he played for Paris as well. So he's a very well-liked figure in Paris. I don't think he was a great coach for the first division, but excellent trainer for the young guys there.
The main positive note of that season was perhaps the emergence of Luis Fernandez. What can you say about him at this point, and was it self-evident that he would become a club legend?
He had something that a lot of people didn't have. I mean, it can be physical, but also very good technical skills. And you can see from the start he was a leader. He's born a leader there. And what is funny is when he came to Paris to play for the youth team at the beginning, he was not French. He was Spanish. And then he got French citizen later on. But what you can see, he was really part, once again, of the two first French Cups, 1982, 1983, and the first French title as a captain. And then he was also the coach of the first European Cup for Paris Saint-Germain. So if you say Luis Fernandez to any Paris Saint-Germain fan, the heart is going to beat a little bit faster because it's very well liked. What is also interesting in terms of international games, so as I told you, he became French citizen, and just after, I will say, he became French citizen, he played for the national French team, and they went to play the Euro 84, and the final was against his home country, against Spain. And during the game, the Spanish players were calling him in Spanish, "You are a traitor." But he was taking the French jersey and kissing the jersey all the time we were doing that.
Yeah.
So he's also very, very well liked by French
And
people.
we should mention he was the missing link in the Le Carré Magique.
So there was the first version of a Carré Magique. There was in 1982, Gengini, Gires, Tigana, and Platini. It was a good first Carré Magique, but a little bit too much offensive. Three number
Yeah.
10 and only one defensive. Then when they substitute Gengini by Fernandez, it becomes much more equilibrated in the sense that we had two offensive, Platini Gires, and two defensive. Fernandez Tigana, for me, is the best midfield that has ever existed.
He was born in Tarifa in Spain. He moved to France. I think he was like 9 years old. He didn't become a citizen until 1981, which is like a year before his first national team match. The 1979-80 season is another with some ambitious signings. The Brazilian defender and future Olympic Marseille manager Abel Braga arrived along with Portuguese midfielder João Alves, the man with the black gloves. There is improvement as the team finished seventh, but Vasovic is once again replaced first with Camille Choquier and then by Georges Peyroche in November. And Peyroche would become the manager Paris Saint-Germain was looking for and stick around for a while. Was he the missing link in terms of managers?
Yeah, George Peros is the one who brought the first French Cups to Paris. So he was a missing link. He understood very well the team dynamics and he had very good players now almost everywhere. So he did very well. I like him very much. George Peros as a coach, Francis Borrelli as a president, fantastic teamwork. This Joao Alves that you mentioned is sometimes considered as the first true star who came to Paris because one has to remember that he was playing in Salamanca in Spain before, in Benfica in Portugal. But while he was playing in Spain, he was voted best foreigner player, which is a huge thing because at that time there was Johan Cruyff and Johan Neskins. So he was an excellent player and he was wearing black gloves, as I mentioned, in honor of his granddad. The story is that his granddad played for the Portuguese national team, and before games against Spain, a young woman gave him these black gloves. Said, if you wear them, Portugal is going to win for the first time against Spain. They have never won before. He wore them, they won. And he gave that to his grandchild, Joao Alves, and he always used them in honor of his grandpa. So, in fact, I saw the first game of Joao Alves in Parc des Princes. It was against Marseille, and he was really, really, really very good there. And Paris, once again, Marseille 2-1, with one goal from Batne that we mentioned and Abel Braga. There, our dad brought my brother and I to see this game. It was the first game that we have ever seen in Parc des Princes. It was great. But a couple of weeks later, Joao Alves got very badly injured by Gengini, who was one of the members of this Carré Magique. But I'm not sure it was done on purpose. But after that, he never recovered. He never recovered his true talent there. So the first big star of Paris, Joao Alves, came, show how good he can be, but could not perform anymore very well after the injury.
For the 1980-81 season, the team improved under Peyroche and achieved its highest placing at fifth place. There's also the arrival of Langevin Dominique Rocheteau. Was there a feeling now that the team was going places?
Good. Yes, Dominique Rocheteau is Langevin, which means the green angel. I mean, he's beloved by everybody in France. Very, very gifted player, can make very nice assists, can score a lot of goals, very humble person there. So, yeah, with him, say, oh, now Paris has some very good players. And at the same time, the same year, somebody else came, another forward. He's from Chad. His name is Tabatingue Toko. And this Nabadingue Toko, somehow he managed to do several times history for Paris. He scored in the French Cup final in 1982, when Paris won for the first time. He scored another goal, the winning goal in the second French Cup in 1983. And he scored also the first goal in European competition in 1982 against Lokomotiv Sofia in Paris. What is quite interesting with this guy is one of the few players who play in French league for Chad, but probably the best ever with there.
Endoram, Yafet
And Doram,
Endoram.
here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. From Jafet and Doram, the two best players from Chad in my mind. What was very funny is he scored second goals against Lokomotiv Sofia. It was a win 5-1, and Paris qualified for the second round. And the second goal was magical. It was a bicycle in the air, fantastic goal. And a TV host came and told him, Batingue, is it the best goal you ever score? And Batingue said something that people remember up to this day. Say, you know me. I have scored much more beautiful goals than that one. I scored so many beautiful goals. He was very funny person, but people like him very much. So Rosto and Toko together, now I say, okay, we can go far.
The arrival of Rosto was also a reference point. He had the image of a football intellectual who took to the life at the capital with the theaters, music, and fashion. What can you say about this phase of his life?
It's interesting. So he has been nicknamed the Green Angel, as you say. Langevert, when he was playing for Saint-Etienne, who wear a green collar, he hated it. He hated this nickname. He said, I don't want to be called an angel. And he even grew some mustache to show that he's not beautiful. He's a beautiful guy there. But it stuck with him. He didn't like it. He was a very humble guy, very shy guy. He didn't like publicity, not like the big stars these days. He likes, as you say, art. He was a good musician by himself. So I remember some articles on him, and you can see in the picture that he is playing some drums. He likes to read. So he was very happy to see this kind of cultural life in Paris. But still very professional. Sometimes, when you go to a big city, but as where you have a lot of things you can do, you tend to get lost there and don't play anymore, not be a professional anymore. But Oster was a professional all the time.
Finally, the first title of the club in the 1981-82 season as the team won the French Cup against Saint-Etienne on a penalty kick shootout. The team also changes home uniform to the white with the red and blue vertical lines on the side, and they would keep it for the remainder of the Borelli era. Was this another reference point of the club now being seen in a different dimension?
Yes, indeed. The first big change, huge change. Finally, a team from Paris can win something, and the win is the French Cup. And against who? Against Saint-Etienne, the big team of the 70s, and with the best French player ever, Michel Platini, and a game that was unbelievable, 2-2 after extra time. With the first goal from Paris was from Toko, and the second goal from Paris was in extra time, the last minute of the extra time, 2-2. And the two assists from Paris were made by a very good Yugoslavian player, Surjak, who stayed only 1 year in Paris, but was a very good player. And the two goals for Saint-Etienne, it was 2-2 by Michel Platini. So when Rocheteau scored at the last minute of extra time, it was crazy in the stands and all around in Paris for the fans. And then it's time for penalty. And we don't know what's going to happen. And basically, it is penalty. Paris won because one of the famous French player of Saint-Etienne, Christian Lopez, very good player, missed it. And what is interesting, in fact, it was Baratelli, Dominic Baratelli that you mentioned, that saved it, if I remember. But in the semi-final, just before that, Baratelli also saved 4 penalties. All the penalties against a team named as Tour. So he saved 4 penalties in semi-final, 1 penalty in final, there. And say, oh, this is a fantastic goalkeeper for penalty kicks. And 1982 is the time of the World Cup. So France went to the World Cup, and everybody believed he's going to be the goalkeeper for France. And for reasons that are still unknown to these days, the French coach, who is also very well liked, I like him very much, Michel Hidalgo, decided not to select him as the first goalkeeper. It was Ettori. And what happened, we went in semi-final 3-3 against West Germany. It's penalty, and we lost in penalty. If you ask a lot of people in my generation, they will say that if it would have been Baratelli as a goalkeeper of the French national team, French will have won, and French will have played the final against the Italy of Paolo Rossi.
Péroche and Paris Saint-Germain confirmed the club's growth by finishing third in 1983 and once again winning the French Cup, defeating league champions Nantes 3-2. And in the same season, Fernandez became an international, and there was even a cameo by Osvaldo Ardiles. And it's also the club's first participation in Europe that you mentioned earlier, where they reached the quarterfinals of the Cup Winners' Cup, being eliminated by Belgian side Waterschei. Was this at the time regarded as the club's zenith?
It was well seen for the first participation to go to quarterfinals, but to be honest, it was a little bit of disappointment because of the quarterfinals. So it was against this Belgium small team of Watersky in quarterfinal, and in the first leg, Paris won 2-0 at home. Say, oh, this is very good. Probably we are going to go to semi-final. But the return leg, Paris collapsed and lost 3-0 after extra time, and they were eliminated. It was a big disappointment, and a lot of people blame it for the right defender, left defender. But I was telling you, there are some spots that were not so good, and it was confirmed at that time. This is a pity because in semi-final, Watersky play against another small team, which is Aberdeen, who went to win the European Cup that year against Real Madrid. So if Paris will have defeated Watersky, as they should have, it was very possible that they could have beaten Aberdeen and play the final for the first ever participation. So happy in one side, first participation quarterfinal, but disappointment because it could have gone better. Also a little bit of disappointment with Osvaldo Ardiles because he's a world champion, a very good player, one of the key players of Argentina to win the 1970 ALD.
And to put it in context, he was on loan for that
Yes,
season because of the Falklands War. He was playing for Tottenham. So, due to the Falklands War, he was loaned to Paris Saint-Germain for like a few months, but then
exactly.
he returned to London.
Exactly. This is exactly what I wanted to say. He has some excuses because he liked very much Tottenham. He liked very much London. And when he had to move because of this Malouine or Falkland War, and I think someone of his family was killed, in fact, during that war. So there was a back blood between England and Argentina. So he moved to Paris. He was not happy. He was not happy in Paris, so he was not playing very well. And then he came back to Tottenham and he played again as he was. But he was a disappointment a little bit for Paris Saint-Germain fans, but it's very understandable.
It must be noted that during this season, there's the arrival of the Yugoslav international, the Bosnian Safet Susic, which was significant as he would mark the history of the club. How did he impact the club in this era, and can he be regarded as the club's greatest foreign signing of this era?
For me, that's it. He's the best player ever to have worn the Paris Saint-Germain jersey. This guy was absolutely magical. He was so gifted. Thierry Morin told anecdotes when it was training. He said that it was basically impossible to take the ball away from Safet Suzik when it was in his feet. Simply impossible there. Also, this guy has everything for him. He played the second French final cup against Nantes, which was extremely good team of 1983. It's perhaps the best French final cup 1983 because the Nantes of José Touré, who scored an incredible goal, is nicknamed the Brazilian,
Le
uh,
Brésilien,
the
yes.
Brazilian, the Brazilian player of France. So beautiful. And Suzik scored an incredible goal. And then he did a beautiful assist to Toko, and Paris won 3-2. This guy was amazing. I had the chance to see him several times, but also at that time, there was an indoor tournament during winter,
Or the Bercy, right? The Paris Bercy. That,
Bercy. And
yeah.
at that time, so I went to see it, and it was Paris against Marseille. Paris had Suzik, and Marseille had another Yugoslavian player named Sliskovic.
Oh yeah, Blas Liskovic, of course. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I believe up to these days that video games have been invented that day because it was like playing with a joystick when these two guys were having the ball. Technically, it was another world. So Safet Suzik, for people like me and a lot of people who have seen him playing, is a god. He's the god of Paris Saint-Germain.
For the 1983-84 season, Lucien Leduc is appointed as manager, though Perroche would return in April. There is consolidation as the team finished fourth and qualified for Europe again. Juventus and Platini stopped the team in the second round of the Cup Winners' Cup. Fernandez and Rocheteau would be part of the French squad that won the Euros at home, and Lemoule would be part of the French side that won the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. Was the team now seen as a European regular qualifier and ambitious for more?
Yes, yes, for sure. First, these games against Juventus, it was very tight game. I think it was 0-0 and 2-2 in Paris.
Yes.
So Juventus qualified because of the goals away. But if you watch some highlight of this game, you are going to see two great players in that game playing incredibly. Michel Platini there and Safet Suzik. If you look what Safet Suzik is doing to Gentile and other players, it's out of the world. They were saying that it was extremely difficult to play against Safet Suzik. So they say if you can only almost qualify against a team of Juventus that has 6 world champions and Michel Platini and perhaps Boniek as well there, you can go very far away in European competition. And you have Luis Fernandez, Lemou, you have some great French player, Suzik among the foreigners. So yeah, it is expected from now on that Paris should qualify every year and they should win hopefully the title, which they have never won so far, really in the coming years.
In this season, 1983-84, one of the Quatre Mousquetaires, the Four Musketeers, Jean-Marc Pilorget, would have a serious car accident in December 1983, and he would be out until the beginning of the 1985-86 season. What can you say about his career and whether his absence was one of the reasons why the team would struggle in the 84-85 season?
He was a great player, central defender, number 4 in France, which is like stopper. He was the captain from time to time. And until last year, until 2024, he was the one that played the highest number of games for Paris there. A very solid presence in defense, really a rock that is very difficult to go around. And before this injury, he was called for the training of the French national team to prepare this European competition at home in 1984. And it was 99% sure that he will be in the starting 11. And then he got this car accident, cannot play for Paris, cannot play for France. And someone else step is Yvon Leroux, was from Brittany as well, but played for Monaco. And France won the European competition. And Pilorget never played a single game for the French national team. Unfortunately, he missed his opportunity. But a lot of all PSG fans, they have very high regard toward Jean-Marc Pilorget, one of the Four Musketeers, trained in the youth center of Paris Saint-Germain, play for Paris Saint-Germain, won the French Cup for Paris Saint-Germain, won the French title for Paris Saint-Germain, wear the armband So what we call in France a TT, someone from Paris area that we are very proud of.
The team was expected to continue on their upward trajectory for the 1984-85 season, but it would be a disastrous season that signaled the end of the Péroche era. Despite all their troubles, the team still reached the final of the French Cup, losing to Monaco. What went wrong that season?
A lot of things went wrong. There was a signing of the Austrian player Richard Niederbacher that is often considered as the worst signing of all time, which is kind of weird because he was a good Austrian striker. And if I remember, during the games that prepare the season, he was scoring quite a lot. And then during the whole season, he didn't score many goals, and it was really pitiful to watch on the ground. What is even worse is that we heard afterwards that there was the choice between him and Larsen from Denmark, who has done an incredible European competition with Denmark, and the nickname is Le Bison.
Preben Elker, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, probably I care. So it went bad. Perhaps Perosh was also tired, very bad signing. Mumus left.
Just to get back on the Preben Elker non-signing, Borelli said that he compared it to both of them were playing in the Belgian league.
Uh-huh.
So Elker was playing for Lokeren, Niederbacher. He was playing for Waregem. So
Okay.
he compared it to, he saw that Niederbacher was scoring more goals and he was younger.
Uh-huh.
So he decided to go with Niederbacher. But of course, then the Euros
Uh,
happened and, you know,
yeah, Kyle Larsen really played fantastic Euro. He very tough to guard when he played against France. It was a very tough game, 1-0 for France for a goal of Platini. But Denmark played very well, and Larsen was one of the big players of this Euro. It's true if you look at the statistic and the age. Borelli decided to go with Niederbacher. You know, from time to time, the bet doesn't work. But and after that, what is even worse is that Larsen went to the small team of Verona in Italy, and the small team became Italian champion in 1986, I think, or 85
85,
even,
yeah, yeah,
85. So
that
even
season,
the
yeah,
same year, yeah.
yeah,
Bad choice, but we cannot criticize too much Francis Borrelli. He has done so much for the team. From time to time, bad things happen.
yeah. And that season, everything just imploded. The arrivals on paper seemed to be okay. You had Philippe Janot arrive from Nancy, Gérard Lantier arrived from Auxerre, Jean-Michel Moutier arrived as goalkeeper, arrived from Nancy. There were some good, talented players, but somehow the team just imploded and finished 13th.
Not a great season, especially considering the years before when you won the French Cup. But at that time, Paris was often considered as a team for the cups. You know, but during the regular season, they could not maintain a high level for a lot of games. But for French Cup, they were able to play good from time to time. So it was really considered as a team for the cups, not so much for the championship.
A dramatic team overhaul was required for the 1985-86 season. Former Lens manager Gérard Houllier was appointed to manage this new team. So the arrivals included the national team goalkeeper Joël Batz from Auxerre. From Nantes, they picked up Michel Bibard and Fabrice Pouyan. Dutchman Pierre Vermeulen arrived from MVV, former Feyenoord player. Other arrivals, you have the Argentine Omar da Fonseca, who later became a television consultant and an
Hmm.
agent, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Claude Lowitz, defender from Metz, Robert Jacques arrived from Nancy, and the Senegalese Oumar Sene from Laval. A number of new arrivals. Was the title expected, or did most people just expect improvement from the previous season?
Honestly, when I remember this time, I was not expecting the title. For the reason you mentioned, the year before was very bad, and you have a lot of signing. It's a new team. So usually a new team needs time to play well together. But what happened is two things. Is that They begin to win a lot of games in a row. So confidence built up. There is also Rocheteau, who scored quite a lot of goals there. And the players that were okay players, but not so great player, like the one you mentioned, Loïc, Jacques, Sen, Biba, Poulain, they're good players, solid players, but not superstar. They play very well. They were very important for the dynamics of the team. So all these effects combined together, Paris went to an incredible series of undefeated games.
Yeah, 26 games, I think,
26
undefeated.
games in a row
Yeah. And
there.
as far as Rocheteau, we have to mention Rocheteau had had a very poor 1984 Euros, and a lot of people felt he was finished.
Mhm.
And this season would be his resurgence, his second act, so to speak.
Mhm.
And he would find his way back to the national team as well and play in the World Cup in Mexico.
Absolutely.
So it was a beneficial season for him to revive his career.
So what is interesting with him, I mean, in terms of, he was first a right winger in Saint-Etienne. Saint-Etienne and the national French team and Paris Saint-Germain at that time, at the beginning, were playing 4-3-3. Three midfield, three forward. But then it became 4-4-2 because we have the Carré Magique in French team. And in Paris, Rocheteau at the end was not playing right winger at that time anymore. He played center forward, a striker. And with French team, it was the same thing. So both in Paris and in the national French team, he had a kind of resurgence, but not as a right winger, as a more striker. And it's true, he had a fantastic season the year of the title. And in 1986 World Cup, he was still very important for the French team.
The title celebrations were somewhat tempered with the news that emblematic player and now captain Luis Fernandez had agreed to join crosstown rivals Racing Club Paris of Jean-Luc Lagardère. And by doing so, he became the highest paid French player. Did this take the heart out of the team?
It was a disappointment for the team. It was a disappointment for the fans because he's like the son of a team, the son of Paris. He started with a youth team, then started to play as a young guy, got to the national team, captain of the team, win the cups, win the title, so highly regarded. So it was a kind of a shock. And on top of that, he went to another Parisian team was building up. It was seen as a competitor of Paris. So there was a mixed feeling. We want to thank him for everything he has done, but he's joining another team. So it's a mixed feeling. But, after that, he became the coach of Paris and won the first European Cup for Paris. So my guess it's forgotten.
Similarly, Thierry Morin, that we mentioned earlier, he also ended his adventure there
Mhm.
and joined Red Star in
Yeah, but
Paris.
at that time, the same year, I don't know what happened. What was in the mind of the coach of the president? You have Rocheteau, who was one of the top striker of the French league, and they hired two other top strikers. One is Vahid Alilogic from Nantes, who scored 18 goals that year, and Bokonde, a Senegalese guy from Metz, 23
Oh yeah,
goals. So
Jules Bocande. Yeah, that's
you've
right.
got
Yeah.
really good players in Metz. But now you have three strikers for one spot. So this is not so well thought in my mind. They cannot play together. What happened in the mind of a coach or of a president? I still don't get it. Because Rocheteau must have been offended, and the other players say, oh, wow, this is going to be tough for me. If I play badly one game, I'm not going to be back in the team for some time. So bad decision. The son of the team, Luis Fernandez, is not there anymore. So it was going downhill after the first title.
Looking on balance as we come to this year 1986, what was the most significant decision of the club in this era? Was it the arrival of Peyroche as manager, or was it the signings of Rocheteau or Susic or other factors? Emergence of Fernandez, let's say.
It's a very good point. Perhaps a combination. The emergence of Fernandez was very important for the team for sure. But if I will have to choose one, it will be the signing of Suzik. overnight, Paris becomes a very strong team. I think it's the same with probably Lyon when they hire Anderson
Oh yeah,
there,
Sonny
or
Anderson. Yeah.
Tony Anderson. They become a very good player. They have some other teams when they hire a good player, perhaps Schifo when he went to Auxerre. It also became a very strong team. So there are some other example when one player suddenly makes a huge difference, not only in the quality of a team, but how this team is seen by people. To tell you about the impact of Suzik, in 2012, the French magazine France Football decided to do a poll: who is the best foreign players of all time since 1933 in French First Division. The vote was Safet Suzik. There. So he has changed everything in my mind.
Is this early history of the club somewhat of a romantic story because of the drama of the two French Cups in 1982 and 83 and the linear progression of the club?
Yes, yes, it's very nice to see a team that is just starting, how it is built up to be a good team, what you have to do to win the titles, and before that, to win the French Cup. And it was a time also romantic football. I mean, the French football was known as the romantic, the French flair. Very beautiful passing with this carré magique. With the Nantes of 1983, it was a fantastic football to watch. Not like now, it's very defensive in my mind. Everything was made for technical, and even in the stands, it was a different story. Now, the fans of the different teams have to be separated. When it was the first French final of Paris, there was the fans of Paris Saint-Germain with the fans of Saint-Etienne close to each other. And in fact, at the end, the fans of Saint-Etienne congratulated the fans of Paris because it was the first title for Paris, while Saint-Etienne had won so many titles before that. So it was very nice atmosphere in the stadium, in the field, in the president's office. It was not business like it is in my mind now.
So, because the team was seen to be growing step by step at home and in Europe, the Paris Saint Germain of this era is usually looked upon in sympathetic terms, perhaps.
That's true. It's like two different teams in my mind. Is the sympathetic team that has finally won something for the city of Paris with romantic players, and now it's very different. It's the team that is the team of billionaires. I mean, you have a country, Qatar, that is behind the team and that can buy players. You have, if you look at the team that has won the Champions League this year, for the first time ever, there are not so many French players in the team. If I have to choose in terms of sympathy between this team that has just won for the first time the European Champions League and the team that won the French Cup, my heart is with the team that won the French Cup in 1982. A new era, very sympathetic, a president that goes into the field and kiss the grass. It was very different mentality. It's like two different teams, even if it's the same name.
As far as presidents, would it be fair to say that Hechter set the modern foundations while Borelli took the club to the next level?
True, true. So Esther, I mean, there was the first president that we should not forget. His name is Pierre-Étienne Guyot in 1970. There, I think Esther was the third or the fourth president. Then Borelli took it to the first title. And after that, there was someone very, very important. Is Michel Denisot as a
Of Canal
president.
Plus, yeah.
Yes, because they won the second title, 94, but they won the first European Cup in 96. So I will say Borelli put Paris Saint-Germain on the national map. It is a good, solid French team. They can win the French title, they can win the French Cups. European competition is still a little bit far away. Denisot said no. Now we can also win European competition, and they went in by 5 times in a row in semi-final in European competition. So Denisot is the one that put Paris Saint-Germain in the map. He had behind him a TV channel, Canal Plus. there. But it was very well done. A lot of very good French players. He was hiring a lot of French players, surrounded by excellent foreigners in the 1990s, like George Weah, Rai, the Brazilian guy. Was also considered one of the best with Suzik, usually number one Suzik, number two Rai. And Valdo and Ricardo Gomez, very good player. We had goalkeepers Benalama in the 90s. I didn't mention too much, but you mentioned the name. Bats in 1986 title. He was phenomenal. Really a very good French goalkeeper. He was also the goalkeeper at the Euro 84 when France won it. So Esther, he put the foundation. Borelli, we win French title. Deniso, we win some European competition, and now we have the money of Qatar to win the big Champions League.
So, in closing, what is the legacy of these early years of Paris Saint Germain in the greater history of French football?
I think it's important that you are building history, you are building foundation. So, for instance, Ibrahimovic was one of the big signing of this new era of Paris Saint-Germain when Qatar bought the team there. And he said something that has offended Thierry Morin and has offended the historic PSG fans. He said that Paris Saint-Germain started to exist in 2011 when Qatar bought Paris Saint-Germain. I think it's a shame to have said that because you forget the first French Cup, you forget the first French title, you again forget the first European Cup in 1996 with Luis Fernandez as coach. So I think it's very important. I will say the young generation have a tendency to forget before 2011, but Paris is not born in 2011. It is either born in 1970 or 1972, depending you are asking. And it's very important to recognize that. And Qatar, in fact, recognize that because I think either they've celebrated the 50 years of the PSG. So I don't know if they did that in 2020 or 2022, probably 2020. So it's nice that they celebrate. And we had a lot of very good players before 2011. They play for the national team there. So, as someone who likes very much history of football, like you are, also forgetting the beginning is a shame. One should not do that.
With that, I would like to thank you for your participation in this interview. All our respective contact information is listed on the blog and podcast uploads, including links to Professor Ballaiche's football articles on the University of Arkansas site, The Beautiful Game Dispatches from the Hill. So, Laurent, thank you once again and hope to continue these discussions on football history.
I hope so too. I really want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And congratulations to what you are doing for the blog and for the podcast as well. It's very important.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.